Hello and welcome to Templar Knight TV. Now this is a fiendishly complicated topic to discuss, but it's one that's very popular with some Templar theorists. So let me try and unpack it for you. Basically, where the Knights Templar, what are termed Johannite, in other words, did they worship John the Baptist over and above Jesus Christ? Did they believe, as it were, that John the Baptist was the true Messiah, and why is that even important? Now, of course, it's eye roll time for mainstream historians, and I apologise to them, but we are going to look at this theory, which, as I say, is of huge interest to a lot of people. So let's go back to the Bible story of when Jesus and John the Baptist first meet. John the Baptist is leading up an already existing sect of some description. He's baptizing people in the River Jordan, and then suddenly Jesus turns up unannounced. Now there's two accounts in the Synoptic Gospels. One has John the Baptist baptizing Jesus in an almost nonchalant, almost disinterested way, whereas the other one has John the Baptist kind of recognizing Jesus as the Messiah, and even the voice of God booming out of the sky in recognition of his son down below getting baptized. But it's always intrigued me to kind of figure out what really was going on here, because John the Baptist clearly has his own sect. Jesus turns up with what must have been a smaller sect, and John the Baptist, we're told, agrees to decrease while allowing Jesus to increase. But nevertheless, there's a suggestion in the story that John the Baptist isn't entirely sure that Jesus is the Messiah. Also, does Jesus take over John the Baptist's sect, or does he create his own? Some people have suggested that Jesus created his own entirely independent sect. But in a sense, why wouldn't he take over John the Baptist's sect if he's supposed to be the real Messiah? Now we're then told that John the Baptist is arrested by the ruler of Galilee, Herod Antipas, because he's criticized the marriage of Herod Antipas to Herodias, who had been married to the king's half-brother previously. Anyway, he's imprisoned. He's basically imprisoned on trial for his life. But from his prison cell, he sends out his followers to interrogate Jesus further. Now, why does he do that? I mean, wasn't the skies opening up and the voice of God booming out enough proof for him that Jesus was the Messiah? But we are definitely given the impression that John the Baptist has lingering doubts about Jesus. And I find it very suspicious that we then have this story that kind of backdates John the Baptist recognizing Jesus to when he was a fetus. So we have this story of pregnant Mary, pregnant with Jesus, meeting pregnant Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist. Two pregnant women meeting each other, and the fetus of John the Baptist is said to have recognized the fetus of Jesus and danced for joy in his mother's womb, presumably a quite uncomfortable experience for Elizabeth. But I just feel that there's an attempt here to backdate this because there are doubts about what John the Baptist really thought about Jesus Christ. So later writers have to, as it were, reaffirm his recognition, taking it right back to the fetal stage. So does the sect of John the Baptist then totally disappear? Well, here's the intriguing thing. No, it doesn't. Because there is a sect called the Mandeans, they go under other names, but the Mandeans, or Johannite, who continue to venerate John the Baptist as the true Messiah. They still exist in Iraq and other parts of the Middle East today. And they certainly existed at the time that the Knights Templar were in the Holy Land and in the Middle East. And it's entirely possible that the Knights Templar came into contact with the Mandeans. Now, of course, what some of these theorists argue is that the Templars were influenced by these Johannites, by these Mandeans, and came to doubt themselves that Jesus Christ was truly the Messiah. Now, one of the earliest theorists for this Johannite Templar connection is Madame Blavatsky. Now, she is a 19th century spiritualist, mystic, and author. She's definitely a Marmite personality. You either love her or hate her. And she was the founder of something called Theosophy. Now, she popularized this idea of the Johannite connection to the Knights Templar, and the Knights Templar, as it were, being guardians of a much older creed than Christianity. But where did she get these ideas from? She talked about having dreams, prophecies, meeting shaman, and so on. So it's the kind of evidence that obviously mainstream historians would completely discard. But let's run with Blavatsky's view for a moment. She believes that the first Templar Grand Master, Hugh de Payne, was basically inducted into the Johannite cult by a man called Theoclites, who was, as it were, the kind of Grand Master of the Johannites, and that from the very start, the Templars were, as it were, the guardians of the Johannite flame. As I say, Blavatsky used telekinesis and clairvoyance and other unorthodox methods to formulate her theories, but nevertheless, what she wrote has kind of seeped into a lot of Templar literature over the last 100+ years. It's very influential, this idea of the Templars being Johannites. I'd be curious to know what you think about this theory. Do share your views. Be as forthright as you wish in the comments below. Look forward to seeing you again soon. In the meantime, make sure to get a copy of my book out on the Knights Templar, Knights Templar History and Mystery, which covers a lot of this ground. There's another book out later this year, Downfall of the Templars, and a third book out on the Templar Freemason connection next year. I am spoiling you with books, so make sure you get book 1. In the meantime, as I believe the Templars used to say, non nobis domine.